Part 74. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 731. Almost at the same time that Su Ming took out the crumpled horse racing ticket, the originally bustling racecourse suddenly became quiet. Many spectators who were about to leave suddenly stopped, raised their heads, opened their mouths slightly, and looked in disbelief to the big screen at the racecourse. There were many more people, pulled by their relatives and friends around, to watch this big screen. On the big screen at the racecourse, the ranking of the highest winnings this time was displayed. First place, Mr. Su. A very long number, almost twice as long as the second place, so that no one is interested in paying attention to the subsequent rankings. Immediately afterwards, the whole audience burst into continuous sighs. On the big broadcast, the commentator's voice sounded like he had seen a ghost, and he exclaimed, "Wow, I read it right, 4 consecutive jackpots, the first 4 consecutive jackpots this year. The bet amount is 300,000 Hong Kong dollars, and the prize is more than 100 million. 130 million Hong Kong dollars. It's really exciting." The two commentators have completely different styles. The previous one has always been exaggerated, while the other one is calm and said calmly, "It's a pity." In this competition, 12 horses finished in the top 4. They are all big favorites, and the odds are relatively low. Otherwise, this bonus could break the HK $150 million quadruple lottery record in 2005, becoming the highest single bonus since the Hong Kong Jockey Club was founded. Wow, don't make a cold face. The quadruple lottery is simply a myth in the horse racing world. It can't be that easy. Even if it doesn't break the record this time, after deducting taxes, there is still more than 100 million to get. Let's talk about it. You can't earn enough saliva in your life. Anyway, I'm so envious. Let's congratulate this Mr. Su. This is not an exaggeration. Theoretically, the probability of a quadruple lottery is about 1 in 10,000, but in actual operation, the small probability event can be regarded as 0. Every year, during the few months of the Hong Kong Jockey Club's schedule, hundreds of millions of bets are placed. Only a handful of people have won the quadruple lottery since the Jockey Club opened. Mr. Su, if I remember correctly, last season, a Mr. Su with the same surname also won the 40 million grand prize. Isn't it such a coincidence that it's the same Mr. Su? How can such a coincidence happen? Do you think you are the god of gamblers? In the uproar of the whole audience, Su Ming blinked at Ho Long Tao and Kui Bai Ga, who were already stunned and speechless, and said in a low voice, "Let's go, enter the village quietly, no shooting." Ho Long Tao didn't even react at all. What was the concept of 100 million Hong Kong dollars, and what was the meaning of winning a quadruple lottery? He just knew that Su Ming had been hit hard by the gold ingot that fell from the sky. No, it's not a gold ingot, it's a big diamond. Kui Baijia's mind buzzed and he was completely confused. Actually got hit. He took 2 restless guys to the service desk. No one else knew that Su Ming had won the lottery, but the operator Joe and the manager on duty who had just sold the lottery ticket to Su Ming were deeply impressed. There were very few people who threw hundreds of thousands or hundreds of thousands of money into it out of spite. When Joe took the bill, his hands were shaking a little, for fear of damaging this thin piece of paper worth hundreds of millions. "Sir, you will have a dedicated senior manager to serve you later," Joe said cautiously. "Okay, no problem." Su Ming smiled at the young girl, and then said to the manager on duty next to him, "Hey, don't forget to call this person directly 2/1000 of my winning amount." "Miss, thank you for bringing me good luck." "Joe. Please forgive me, sir, my level is too low to handle it. The senior manager of the Jockey Club can help you with related matters later." The fat manager on duty smiled as brightly as a spring flower, no matter what he was scolding behind his back just now. He was a mainlander, who he was before, but from today on, he was definitely someone he couldn't afford to offend. As he was talking, a middle-aged woman with black-rimmed eyes appeared in front of her, accompanied by 4 security guards dressed like Marines. "Hello, Mr. Su Ming, I am Shen Jiyi, the Executive Vice President of the Hong Kong Jockey Club. I would like to take over the award matters with you." The middle-aged woman's tone was very polite, but there was an undeniable air of superiority. Seeing those security guards, Su Ming smiled, knowing that what he had been guarding against, or what he had been waiting for, finally happened. It is definitely not that simple to take away 100 million smoothly. Xiao Xiao said, "Okay, my 2 friends, please take care of them. Please rest assured that the Jockey Club has always adhered to the principle that the customer is God," Shen Jiyi said. The group of people walked towards the office building behind the racecourse, leaving a group of junior employees at the service desk looking at each other. "Joe, you want to treat me to dinner today?" 2/1000 of more than 100 million, which is more than 200,000, a young female employee broke the silence first. Yes, yes, the god of wealth is here. "Joe, did you go to Wong Tai Sin to make a wish last week?" Most of the operators at the Jockey Club were young girls, and there was a sudden buzz. Joe himself was still in a daze. More than 200,000 Hong Kong dollars is not too much, but it is definitely a lot. The economy has been in recession in the past 2 years. "My husband is a programmer. When he graduated last year, his monthly salary was only 12,000 yuan. This year it has increased to 15,000 yuan. As for herself, her job as a bill teller has no technical content, and she only earns less than 10,000 yuan a month." "What are you doing? You don't do anything during working hours," the fat manager glared and stopped this little commotion. "Sorry, manager, it's all my fault." Joe blinked at a group of sisters and quickly sat down in front of the computer. The manager sat down next to her, suddenly changed his face, smiled very kindly and whispered, "Joe, why don't you ask that Susheng for a phone number and ask him where he is? If something good happens in the future, you also take care of my uncle. You see, my uncle is very old and has to pay off the mortgage. It's very hard." "But you just said, don't be deceived." Joe didn't know whether it was intentional or just naive. He blinked and asked the fat manager innocently. "Wow, what uncle means is, don't be deceived by those salty guys pretending to be rich. He now has a net worth of more than 100 million. If he is a real rich man, of course he cannot be considered a scam," the fat manager said seriously. Said. After Su Ming left the stands, Princess Anne and Princess Eugene in the VIP box also saw the detailed list of the winners. "It's him. He actually won more than 100 million Hong Kong dollars. The Jockey Club's gambling industry adheres to the tradition of the Western gambling industry. Since the essence of gambling is that individuals obtain public funds, it must be transparent. There is no privacy protection. Who buys lottery tickets, how they place the bets, and how much money they win. It can be clearly checked that there is no such thing as wearing a headband to receive the award. Of course, the information released is limited to the most basic names, including detailed personal information." "Huh? I actually won 100 million, Anne and Unicorn were also quite shocked. After calculation, it turned out to be 20 million US dollars. For these 2 royal families with noble titles but not much money, it was absolutely worth it. Not a small number. Even for Queen Elizabeth herself, $20 million is a lot of money. Okay, Eugene, look at his betting records. Every time he is betting, he is worth hundreds of thousands of Hong Kong dollars. He should be an upstart from the mainland. As a royal family, don't have conflicts and relationships with these people. It will be bad for our reputation. I'll help you with the car, don't be sad," said Annie. Eugene suddenly laughed. "No, Sister Anne, I don't need your help, and I'm not sad at all. On the contrary, I'm very happy. Anne was stunned. The person who offended her had made a lot of money. Instead of being angry, Unity was also very happy. When did this little girl change her personality? Eugene smiled more and more happily, his big eyes almost narrowed to a slit, like a cunning little fox. He put his arms around Anne's shoulders and said, "Sister Anne, he won 100 million, this money is not only it can be used to repair cars, no. It's enough to buy several new ones. Well, it can also make up for the shortfall of my winery and manor." "Eugene, what are you doing? I'm warning you, if you engage in illegal behavior, Her Majesty the Queen will revoke your title and kick you out of the royal family," and laughed so hard at her that she quickly warned. "Don't worry, dear sister, I'm not the kind of bad girl who bullies others." Yanijin clicked on the screen a few times with a smile. "Look at his betting records, he always loses, but every time he keeps. What does it mean to increase the amount and take a riskier gamble?" Regardless of their personalities, the princesses of the royal family have indeed received a good systematic education and have also dabbled in psychology. Anne pondered for a moment and said, "It shows that this person is very impulsive and willful. In Chinese terms, he just wants to save face. Well, still a typical wealthy man with no shortage of money. Also, he doesn't know much about horses. This last time, he was probably just lucky. Haha, that's right. For such a person, if I don't win all his money, I will be sorry for the British Empire's cultivation of me for more than 20 years, ha 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 ha." The more Unijin talked, the happier he became, and finally he just put his hands on his hips and laughed. Princess Anne was very speechless. Every time Eugene laughed wildly like this, she seemed to have a dark temperament in Her Majesty's private mind. No wonder the sister repeatedly made all kinds of news and gave the royal family a huge headache. Her Majesty the Queen still loved her very much. Not entirely because Eugene is the Queen's granddaughter and the seventh heir to the throne. Perhaps the more important reason is that she is the one who looks most like Her Majesty the Queen among her many children and grandchildren. Okay, Annie had nothing to do with her sister. She could only spread her hands and said, "As long as you don't cause trouble, betting on horse racing is okay. I'm going to prepare for the dressage performance at the opening ceremony of the Longines Cup next week. Do you want to come with me? Come together." "Okay. I just want to go to the stables to see the participating horses with my own eyes, so that I can truly determine their condition." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 732. Mr. Su, according to our information, you also came to the Jockey Club to bet on horses last season and won 40 million Hong Kong dollars. After entering the door, Shen Jiyi politely asked Su Ming to sit down and made him a cup of rich black coffee. However, she did not talk about the 100 million bonus this time, but instead talked about a seemingly irrelevant topic. "What? Does the Jockey Club not allow a customer to win twice?" Su Ming asked with a smile. "I had known for a long time that Jockey Club was going to do this. We can't blame the Jockey Club for being stingy no matter which institution is changed. If the same person wins two huge sums of money in a short period of time, it is impossible to remain indifferent. As for collecting guest information, especially the information of important guests, that is even more appropriate. If nothing else, even Daowin Group has such a department. The Science and Technology Department that Shenyang manages has a very important business, which is to collect information about customers who spend a lot of money on the live broadcast platform, and conduct hobby analysis based on the time of occurrence, reason and amount of rewards, etc., and there will even be special small policies. For these rich people, make slight adjustments to the live broadcast according to their preferences. Why are there so many live broadcast platforms across the country, including more than 20 live broadcast platforms for zoos in various places, but Yangchuan City Zoo is the best and most attractive, and its income is several levels higher than other platforms? This is not without reason. Only by grasping the hearts of the people can you capture the market. This type of big data analysis and monitoring is not only available on live broadcast platforms, but will also be promoted and experimented by film and television companies. As a gaming institution with a government background, this is even more true. Being able to politely invite Su Ming here to chat is already considered very good. Su Ming estimated that if he had won hundreds of millions in Las Vegas, he would have been directly killed by several gunmen. Feeding vultures in the desert. Of course, whether the casinos in Las Vegas have compromised their own capabilities is another matter. Getting back to the topic, Shen Jiyi pushed her eyes, showed a very formulaic smile, and said, "Of course not, and please don't misunderstand me. Since you are an important customer of the Jockey Club, we would like to know more. Of course, if you are not willing, we have no right to force you to say anything." Su Ming gently slid a finger over the warm coffee cup and said with a hint of sarcasm, "I saw in the movie, the Independent Commission Against Corruption and the Commercial Crime Investigation Bureau also invite people to drink coffee. But in that kind of place the coffee is probably not as good as jockey clubs. I'm a foreigner, so of course I can only say whatever jockey club asks." Mr. Su really misunderstood. "I just wanted to chat. The Jockey Club is a formal gambling organization and protects any legal income," Shen Jiyi said seriously. At the same time, in two other smaller offices on the same floor of the Jockey Club, Kui Baiga and Ho Long Tao were also separated. They were each accompanied by a middle-level member of the Jockey Club, drinking coffee and chatting. He said it was accompanying, but in fact, he was just asking some questions about Su Ming. Ho Long Tao didn't notice it at first, but when the female supervisor who accompanied him asked what kind of business Su Ming did in the mainland and how much income he earned in a year, he immediately became alert. "If I don't tell you, will you let the police come to arrest me?" Ho Long Tao asked seriously. The female supervisor was stunned for a moment, then said, "Mr. Ho, you misunderstood, it was just a casual chat." "Then I don't want to talk about this topic." Ho Long Tao waved his hand, then took the coffee and directly adopted a non-cooperative attitude. Kui Baijia's side is different. After all, Ho Long Tao and Su Ming are mainlanders, especially Su Ming, who has a lot of halo around his head. Without conclusive evidence, even the Xiangjiang police cannot investigate him, and the Jockey Club has no right to embarrass him. Kui Baijia, on the other hand, is a true native of Xiangjiang and is involved in the entertainment industry. Compared with the entertainment industry, the Hong Kong Jockey Club is a giant. When the total annual output of movies and records in the Hong Kong entertainment industry is over 3 billion, the Jockey Club's annual revenue is as high as 100 billion, which is not at the same level. Big boss figures in the entertainment industry are proud of their Jockey Club status. It can be said that the Hong Kong Jockey Club is composed of the top figures in Hong Kong. In front of the Jockey Club, a second-tier star is really not worth mentioning, and can be easily crushed to death like an ant. Regarding Kui Baijia, he asked directly without going around any circles. "Ms. Kui, Mr. Su who is with you has won nearly 200 million Hong Kong dollars at the Jockey Club this year. We have a few questions to ask and hope you can cooperate," the supervisor who received Kui Baijia said expressionlessly. Kui Baiga nodded calmly, "Of course, as long as privacy is not involved, I am willing to truthfully tell you what I know. How did you meet Su Ming? How much do you know about Su Ming?" During the whole process of betting on horse racing, Su Ming acted, almost in detail, asking every detail about how Kui Baiga and Su Ming knew each other. "Do you think he doesn't understand horses at all and is just lucky?" the supervisor finally said in confusion. "I don't think so." Kui Baiga still looked calm and said, "The Jockey Club can check his betting records, so it should be able to know that I didn't lie. As for not knowing horses, that's what you said, Mr. Supervisor. Of course, I agree with you." The supervisor frowned slightly. It would be too much of a coincidence to say that a person who knows nothing about horses came to the casino twice and won huge sums of money both times. But if he knows about horses, from Kuibijia's words, as well as the monitoring and data record analysis of the Jockey Club, this Mr. Su has indeed lost many times. If you want to make money, there is no need to lose deliberately. Losing deliberately, is it pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger? Deliberately creating an illusion that you don't know horses? Seeing the supervisor's puzzled face, Kuibijia thought about it and still mentioned lightly, I remember that the highest single winning record of the Jockey Club is 150 million. Since the Jockey Club is a formal gambling industry, then luck certainly exists. Although the probability is small, it does exist after all. If the gambling industry does not admit the existence of luck, it is equivalent to telling everyone that there is a black hand behind the scenes and someone is controlling the market. This is a consequence that no formal gambling organization can afford, let alone the Hong Kong Jockey Club, which almost represents Hong Kong. If such rumors spread, the Hong Kong Jockey Club will face a major disaster. Coincidentally, in Shen Jiyi's office, after being asked a lot of questions by Shen Jiyi, Su Ming also frowned slightly and said almost the same sentence as Kuibijia. Although Shen Jiyi looked normal, the waves in her heart were much stronger than those of the supervisor who was chatting with Kuibijia. Su Ming is from the mainland, and the mainland does not allow the existence of private gambling. The Hong Kong Jockey Club has an official background but is a private organization. Thinking of this, Shen Jiyi was shocked and even broke out in cold sweat on her back. This matter may not be as simple as it seems on the surface. The water inside is terrible. Seeing that the strong woman who was still talking eloquently just now fell silent and re-examined herself with a strange eye, Su Ming felt funny in his heart, knowing that his purpose of using the tiger's skin as a banner had been achieved. It's time to stop when you see the good, and the degree must be controlled. It doesn't matter if you use the tiger's skin, but it will be bad if you really alarm the tiger. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 733. Before coming to Xiangjiang, Su Ming had never thought about making a lot of money from the Jockey Club. This trip was just to relax and earn a little bit of money with his mental strength. But before coming, he had a conversation with Pu Jibin about the future development of the company. After coming, he went to the Longwu mansion, participated in the investment in the World of Warcraft movie, and later Ho Long Tao's Broken Love. All these things put together, Su Ming suddenly realized my career has now reached a turning point. Those who successfully make the transition will step onto a higher level platform in the future and truly stand at the top of the domestic business circle. Those who fail to make the transition will remain only small and medium-sized entrepreneurs in a short period of time. To put it bluntly, it's the time when money is most needed. Investing in movies and listing companies requires money, and it's a lot of money. At present, although money is tight, it seems to be enough. But doing business is definitely not about just having enough money. When investing in movies, the greater the investment, the greater the return. Operating a listing also requires tens of millions of investments. His liquidity has been depleted and he can only rely on the continuous income of several other companies to support it. In other words, if problems arise in several other companies, the capital chain of the seemingly huge Daowon Group will be broken. That will lead to a chain reaction of collapse. Daowon Group, which has just stepped onto the official track and is like the rising sun, will have to embark on the road of borrowing. Like many private enterprises, it is burdened with high loans and a heavy burden. Moreover, no one can guarantee whether the movie will make money. Even if it does, it will take at least half a year to recover the money. So no matter from which aspect, there must be some money on hand as a reserve fund. If there is no chance, Su Ming can only rely on the World of Warcraft movie to try and take risks. But at the Xiangjiang Jockey Club, with such a cash machine in front of him, Su Ming had a new choice. In the days when he was talking about movies with Long Wu, Su Ming had been planning how to successfully take a sum of money from the Jockey Club. The first is of course mental strength. With his current mental strength, he dare not say that he will win, but it is no longer a small probability event, and he has a high chance of winning. The second issue is the amount. If he really wins hundreds of millions or even billions, Su Ming believes that the Jockey Club will never remain indifferent. Even if it comes to him, it will not be the Jockey Club, but the Independent Commission Against Corruption or even departments such as the Commercial Crime Investigation Bureau. After checking the past winning records, Su Ming felt that keeping the amount around the lowest record in history should be within the acceptable range of the Jockey Club. The third thing is how to explain afterwards. The Jockey Club cannot ignore the bonus of over 100 million, not to mention that it is too coincidental that he has won the jackpot in 2 seasons. So he made a show before, deliberately letting the horse that might win the championship show his spirit, using Ho Long Tao as a cover, while he pretended to be a willful nouveau riche. Of course, it is also necessary to muddy the water, use the tiger skin as a banner, and scare the horse racing. Seeing that Shen Jiyi was really frightened, Su Ming felt that the heat was almost over and it was time to find a way for everyone to get off. Actually, you can't say that I don't understand horses at all. Su Ming gently stirred the black coffee with a spoon, and suddenly showed a proud smile. I run a zoo in mainland China and own 2 race horses. Speaking of which, I'm a pretty good trainer, so these horse clubs should be able to find out. Shen Jiyi nodded. It seems that your understanding of animals is far beyond imagination. This is not illegal. There are more than a dozen horse books in Xiangjiang, which are dedicated to analyzing horses, right? Su Ming shrugged and asked. This left Shen Jiyi speechless. After all, the Jockey Club is a gambling industry. They have good skills. What can you do? It's like betting on sieves. If you use a lead-filled mercury sieve, it's cheating. It's not allowed by the rules and everyone calls you a cheat. But if you have the ability to shake the sieve in the sieve cup with superb skills, to get the points you want is an upright conspiracy, but on the contrary, he is the god of gamblers that everyone admires. Of course, my skills are not as good as you think, otherwise I wouldn't have lost so much. Su Ming put down his coffee and said sternly, okay, Miss Shen, my time is also precious. If I know how to play horse racing, if you are not ready to report the case, please transfer the bonus to my account as soon as possible. Speaking of which, how could the Jockey Club report the case? It has no basis and no evidence. If it gets too big, it may even cause sensitive issues on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. In fact, at the beginning of today, Shen Jiyi came to talk to Su Ming on behalf of the Jockey Club, and the purpose was not to default on the debt at all. If Su Ming really didn't know the heights of the world and won billions in one fell swoop, then the Jockey Club would definitely use various means to keep the money. But more than 100 million is still within the bottom line of the Jockey Club's ability to bear. But Shen Jiyi has her own ideas. As one of the senior executives, if she makes achievements in this matter, it will be very helpful for improving her status in the Jockey Club in the future. Fortunately, Su Ming was prepared and was not frightened by her. Su Shen, you misunderstood, the money will definitely be given to you. Shen Jiyi had no choice but to suppress the little thought, returned to the original purpose, and said with a smile, I just represent the Jockey Club to invite you. Join the Jockey Club and become a member of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, so I need to know something about you. After saying that, he took out a dark gold black card from the drawer, handed it to Su Ming with both hands very cautiously, and said, if you agree, a special person will visit you tomorrow to complete a series of other procedures. This time it was Su Ming's turn to be slightly stunned. The Hong Kong Jockey Club is not a local jockey club in the mainland. Anyone with money can join. To become a member of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, it is not enough to have money. You must also have a good social reputation and have made relatively large contributions to society. Moreover, the number of places is limited, and only a small number of places are issued regularly every year. There are many well-known Hong Kong tycoons with a net worth of billions who line up and wait for several years for a place. Lian Longwu and Jackie are only honorary members of the Jockey Club, not formal members. As for Shen Jiyi, the Jockey Club executive in front of him, he can only be regarded as an employee of the Jockey Club, not necessarily a member of the Jockey Club. There are no visible benefits for Jockey Club members. They have to pay a considerable amount of membership fees every year and have certain obligations. But the invisible benefits are huge. Some clubs under the Jockey Club can only be entered by Jockey Club members. In Hong Kong, becoming a formal member of the Jockey Club is the best affirmation of a person's achievements. In addition to the honor, from then on, you have a ticket to enter the real top circle of Hong Kong. After just a few seconds of hesitation, Su Ming realized that this card might have been prepared by Shen Jiyi before she came to him, using the identity of a Jockey Club member to bribe him. Su Ming was speechless and wanted to shout, "I surrender to you." Bribing if you can't handle it. This is the real local tyrant style, I like it. However, he pretended to be puzzled and asked curiously, "I join the Jockey Club? This is not appropriate, right?" Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 734. When Su Ming walked out of Shen Jiyi's office, he happened to see the two office doors on the opposite side of the corridor open. Kui Baiga and Ho Long Tao walked out of them respectively, followed by a man in a suit and tie. They didn't look too low-level. "People accompany you." The three people looked at each other in the corridor. They were all slightly stunned at first, and then they showed a knowing smile to each other and shook their heads in silence. "Thank you to the Jockey Club for taking care of you." Su Ming turned around and smiled at Shen Jiyi. The corners of Shen Jiyi's mouth twitched slightly and she forced out a smile. "That's right. Strictly speaking, you are already a member of the Jockey Club. The Jockey Club has the responsibility to take good care of your friends." After hearing this, Ho Long Tao didn't realize anything, but Kui Baiga's eyes lit up and he looked at Su Ming in disbelief. "Thank you very much." Su Ming smiled and waved to the two of them, "Let's go and eat seafood." After leaving the racecourse, the three of them took a Mazda owned by Kui Baiga and headed straight to a seafood restaurant on the edge of Victoria Harbour where they had already made a reservation. Along the way, Ho Long Tao asked questions. The Jockey Club's behavior just now made him a little uneasy. After all, he was just a small boss with an annual income of hundreds of thousands, and he could not remain indifferent to a huge financial empire. It wasn't until Su Ming took out the membership card and told Ho Long Tao that everything was okay and there was no need to worry, that Ho Long Tao breathed a sigh of relief. "Damn it, if you can't handle it, just buy it." Ho Long Tao took the Jockey Club black card in his hand and played with it, and said with a smile, "With such a small card, are you willing not to come here to bet on horses in the future?" "It's not that you don't bet on horses, it's that you bet less and win less." Su Ming smiled. In the final stage of Shen Jiyi's office, the two parties finally made things clear. The Jockey Club welcomes young and promising mainland entrepreneurs like Su Ming to join, and hopes that Su Ming can help the Jockey Club develop in the future. Small gambling brings pleasure, but big gambling is harmful to the body. The original intention of the Jockey Club to set up gambling is to support charity in Hong Kong. I hope Su Ming can help the club develop in the future. Sir can contribute to charity. The meaning is the same as what Ho Long Tao said, bribery. No matter whether you have real ability or you are cheating, I will give you the status of a Jockey Club member. You will be embarrassed to spend tens of millions of Jockey Club money like this again in the future, right? Borrowing the donkey from the slope, Su Ming was not prepared to use the Jockey Club as a long-term cash machine. He even planned to finish the job with this ticket and never come to Xiangjiang again. At this time, the jockey club gave a good step. Just in time everyone stepped down. It doesn't mean that you can't gamble in the future, but the two sides know it well. It's okay to play for a while, but if big figures like today's tens of millions or hundreds of millions appear again, they will have to fight hard. Are you going to break up with the Hong Kong Horse Club? Su Ming thought for a moment and estimated that even the chief executive would not do this. It's okay if you don't want to gamble. I've experienced it today. Gambling is so addictive. If you get addicted to it, you'll get caught up in it sooner or later. No matter how big your fortune is, you can't afford it. Ho Long Tao returned the membership card to Su Ming and joked, but the jockey club is really petty. A membership card will cost you money, so why don't you come here for free in the future? Su Ming smiled and said nothing. Kui Baijia, who had been driving in the front seat, finally couldn't help but speak and said, Ho Sheng, this is not a petty attitude. Let me ask you, what would happen if a businessman knew and had friendship with a big boss like Li Jiaqin? It goes without saying that if you give me some small projects, it will be enough for a lifetime, or you can learn a lot by just chatting with me, Ho Long Tao said casually. If you go to visit Li Jiaqin, will they see you? Kui Baiga asked again. Ho Long Tao was not angry and laughed at himself, of course not. Don't talk about Li Jiaqin, Mr. Su is like us. If it weren't for our good personal relationship, I wouldn't be able to get in his door. That's it. Membership of the jockey club is just a ticket. The people who come in and out of the club are all the top people in Xiangjiang. Ho Sheng, do you think this card is worth anything? Kui Baiga asked with a smile. Ho Long Tao said and then he remained silent. After a while, he turned to look at Su Ming and said, Old Su, if you really see Li Jiaqin, can you help me get an autograph? I'll hang it in the cinema. The door. Monkey, you are stupid. If you open a movie theater, Li Jiaqin's signature is not as good as Andy Lau's, Su Ming laughed. No, what you are talking about is the old Chinese calendar. Peng Yuyan and Louis Koo are popular now, Ho Long Tao said. Kui Baiga looked deeply at the two people joking in the back row in the rearview mirror, mainly Su Ming. Ever since he got in the car, Kui Baiga's heart was beating wildly and he was restless. He almost ran a red light several times. Everything that happened today was too overwhelming for her to accept. The nouveau riche spends money at will, with a huge bonus of more than 100 million. When the jockey club showed hostility, she was calm on the outside, but she was scared to death in her heart. Although she didn't say anything bad about Su Ming, she didn't dare to hide it at all. As a native of Hong Kong, she is very aware of the huge background of the jockey club. In the history of Hong Kong, several groups that are said to manipulate Hong Kong's finance and secretly influence the political situation are almost all members of the jockey club. This seemingly loose organization can be said to be an invisible shadow hanging over Xiangjiang. She couldn't help but worry about Su Ming. She had put a lot of effort into making friends with this wealthy man who she thought was very promising. If Su Ming becomes an enemy of the jockey club, not only will Su Ming not be able to succeed in Xiangjiang, but she may also suffer the same consequences. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered and exited, Su Ming suddenly transformed into a black card member of the jockey club and became a member of the jockey club. Although there are many big names and stars in the Hong Kong film and television circles, the number of those who are formal members of the jockey club can be counted on two hands. As for those who have received black cards before the age of 25, there has not been one since the establishment of the jockey club. At the very beginning, Kui Baijia even had an absurd but irresistible thought in her mind, I must get into his bed. She was shocked herself. Although she was in the entertainment industry and became famous by sex, she was not the kind of actress who sold her body and climbed up by unspoken rules. Even if she occasionally had a pleasure with someone in the circle, it was based on the feelings of both parties, not purely for profit. How did this idea suddenly come up? Do I really have feelings for him? Then she smiled bitterly. As a single woman, she certainly had feelings for a young and promising man. But this feeling, although it was due to his character and appearance, it might be more based on economic conditions and social status. Feeling is a very strange thing at first. It may be due to many external factors, such as economy, status, appearance, or even an inadvertent word, or the attitude towards something, but once a feeling is generated, it is often irrelevant to all external things and directly points to the person himself. Kui Baijia is like this now. She drives absent-mindedly, and the seafood meal that follows is also tasteless. The source of human pain is often not because of nothing, but because of wanting but not getting it. 3 days later, Daowen Company sent an invitation letter, inviting her to participate in the audition, to play a supporting role in a magic drama, a female of the orc race. If she passes the audition, she will go to the United States for a short-term training. Holding the invitation letter, Kui Baijia finally raised a beautiful arc at the corner of her mouth. After all, the thoughts she had put in during this period of time have worked. Why is it an orc? How do I look like an orc? She took the invitation letter, stood in front of the mirror for a long time, and suddenly figured it out. Aren't female orcs the kind of women with big breasts and big buttocks who look strong and powerful? Wow, this bastard actually laughed at me for being too strong. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 735. The Hong Kong Longines Cup series of events is an international equestrian event sponsored by Longines Watch Industry. It is held once a year and is divided into 4 large-scale events. The specific names are different, and they are all titled Longines. The speed race, in which Suming bet on horse racing, can only be regarded as one of the 3-day events. However, because speed racing is the easiest to understand and can stimulate the passion of the audience the most, it is the most popular one. In fact, whether a horse is good or bad and whether it can run is just a single indicator. More importantly, it is the fit between the rider and the horse, the coordination of the horse's body, and many other factors. The Longines Cup competition is relatively comprehensive and is divided into dressage, endurance, and obstacle events, also known as equestrian triathlon. Among them, the most ornamental is of course the dressage. The most exciting is undoubtedly the endurance race. The distance of nearly 10 kilometers is divided into several stages. It is not just about running fast, including flat tracking, obstacle chasing, and cross-country. And the most interesting thing is the obstacle course. Strictly speaking, Ho Long Tao and Suming are both laymen. A layman watches the fun, while an expert watches the door. In order to pretend to be experts, these 3 competitions have very professional rules for adding and deducting points, except when the performance gap between the players is too large. Laymen can't tell winning or losing at all. Suming also specially crammed in a lot of relevant knowledge. Only when he arrived at the scene did he find out that the 4 small events of the so-called Xiangjiang Longines Cup were all speed competitions. 2,200 meters, 1,600 meters, 1,000 meters, and short course 800 meters. It turns out that Suming made a mistake. The Longines Cup Hong Kong event and the Longines Cup are not the same thing. The Longines Cup equestrian competition is held in different cities every year, and it was also held once in Shanghai in the mainland. However, the Longines Cup Hong Kong events are only held in Hong Kong. As a result, the total prize money of 100 million originally thought was much less, and the highest champion only received more than 4 million Hong Kong dollars. With the previous 100 million at the bottom, Suming was not prepared to make a lot of money from the Longines Cup. No matter how powerful his mental power was, it was impossible to directly turn Dakyuhuohuo and Shive Along into super horses. The strength of these 2 guys lies here. He was originally at the bottom of this level of competition, but after half a year of special training and mental nourishment from Tony, it was already pretty good for him to reach the finals. Su Ming's biggest hope was in dressage. The main test of dressage is the obedience of the horse and the coordination between the jockey and the horse. This is a piece of cake for Su Ming, who has the power of mental communication. A set of moves was programmed in advance for the two guys to memorize and practice. Tony rode on the horse and cooperated a little, and there would be absolutely no mistakes. People who really understand horses may not value racing results. Just like the Olympic equestrian competition, sprint racing is only a part of endurance racing, and endurance racing is also only 1/3 of the overall situation. Times have changed, and in a technological society there is no longer a need for horses to haul goods and run long distances. Therefore, for horse lovers, obedience and cooperation are the most important indicators of whether a horse is good or not. All Su Ming wanted was to make a big splash in the dressage competition, increase the value of the two horses, and if possible, promote the zoo. God can't let Su Ming take advantage of everything, and his wishful thinking has completely failed. Of course, there are many people betting on horse racing in Xiangjiang, but very few people really understand equestrianism. Since it is a competition and the Longines watch is promoted, but no one can understand it, what's the point? Longwu wore big sunglasses, sitting in the stands with his son Xiang left. Today is the opening ceremony of the 4 major events of the Longines Cup and the first 800-meter race. Longwu and Xiangzhou, both father and son, are equestrian enthusiasts. Longwu is also an honorary member of the Jockey Club. He made an appointment with Su Ming and Ho Longtao, the 4 of them come to the scene together. Although he had known that Longwu's family had a good relationship with Su Ming, it was still the first time for Ho Longtao to see a live Longwu. Surprised, he pulled the father and son to take pictures. Brother 10, do you need to get a private room? Su Ming saw that more and more people were attending, and there was almost no room left in the auditorium. He wondered if this person was a star after all, and would it cause a disturbance if he appeared in public. Watching horses, of course it has to be lively. What's the point of being in the box? Longwu shrugged. Besides, there are as many celebrities as dogs in Xiangjiang, and everyone is used to it. Who would care about me, an old man? Maybe my son, they are all more famous than me. Xiang left walking from a distance carrying 2 large bags filled with drinks in both hands. He seemed to have met an acquaintance halfway and chatted for a while with a smile. There is a man and a woman. The man is not tall and the woman is slightly plump. They both wear big sunglasses and are dressed in ordinary clothes. Dad, I just saw that Tony and Karina are here after a while. Xiangzhou walked through the crowd, smiled and distributed the drinks to the 3 people, and said to Longwu. Su Ming felt that the 2 men and women in sunglasses looked familiar, but he had never heard of their English names. Ho Longtao unexpectedly whispered, Tony Leung and Karina Lau. Longwu shrugged, yes, Jia Ling loves horse racing, but Wei Zhe can't. He likes to be quiet, so he always comes with Jia Ling. Su Ming. Ho Longtao seemed to be listening to a play, his eyes widened as he looked at the 2 people over there, and then at Su Ming. I will introduce you to each other when I have the opportunity in the future. Every time Wei Zhe comes to the race course, he always wants to find a place to sleep. Now that you are an official member of the Jockey Club, you have the privilege of using the box at any time, Longwu said with a smile. After some routine opening remarks, the Longines Cup opening ceremony performance officially began. Although there was no competition, the opening ceremony performance was dressage. This gorgeous and elegant sport lacked a bit of life and death fireworks, but it was very entertaining and showed the grand scene. A total of 8 horses, led by a pure black horse, lined up and slowly stepped into the prepared venue. The 8 horses were like 8 precise but energetic mechanical lives. Every time they took a step, they raised their hooves, paused for a while, and then took the next step with a great sense of rhythm. What was rare was that the steps of the 8 horses were actually uniform, like a military parade. As soon as the leading horse appeared, it won a full house of applause. The enthusiasm in the horse farm that accommodated tens of thousands of people was high. The jockey riding on the black horse seemed to feel the enthusiasm of the audience, took off his hat, and waved to the audience. Equestrian competition is the only sport in the world that does not distinguish between men and women. The leading jockey had a head of golden hair and was a foreign girl. Princess Anne, British equestrian champion, one of the royal heirs, Long Wu introduced. Su Ming was slightly stunned. This name sounded so familiar. He immediately remembered that Kui Baijia had introduced this princess and was her fan. Foreigners are also very easy to talk about. Whoever you mention will come. The princess is here, doesn't the chief executive need to come out to receive her? Su Ming looked around. That's not necessary. This is not a foreign visit. Long Wu pointed to a box opposite. These foreign princesses with titles often come to Hong Kong to participate in the Jockey Club's activities. See if you see that box. It is said that several princesses from various countries came to this competition. In the box that Long Wu pointed to, there were 4 women of different ages who were either using telescopes or watching the movements on the field through the screen in the box. In addition to Unikin and Hea, there was also an Oriental woman who looked like a little girl. The last one was wearing the uniform of the Hong Kong police. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 736. If Su Ming were here, he would definitely find an old acquaintance in the box. Apart from Unijin Hea, another young Oriental woman in the box looked more like a high school girl. She had an unconcealable arrogance on her cute and pretty face. She was wearing a white suit. A blooming hibiscus is embroidered on the collar. Unitiken has been in front of the screen in the box, manipulating the screen, using the cameras all over the place, seeming to be looking for something. Found it, Unikin said suddenly. Princess Hea was helpless towards Unikin, shaking her head and smiling, but another young female high school student leaned her head curiously. Did he offend you? Your Highness Unikin. That's the guy. Yanijin pointed his slender fingers at a guy on the screen who was drinking coke. Who else could it be if he wasn't Su Ming? He looks very ordinary, a wretched-looking Chinese man. The high school girl grew up quite fresh, but what she said was hard to hear. She raised her thin eyebrows and whispered, Sister Eugene, don't you need me to help you teach him a lesson? I brought my guards with me. Unitiken looked back at Princess Hea and the senior female police officer sent by the Xiangjiang police to accompany them all the way, shook her head and said to the female high school student, Thank you for your kindness, Your Highness Jiazi. But I will use fair and honest means. His Highness Yoshiko hummed, but his tone clearly disapproved of what Unikin meant by being above and above board. Unlike the British system, although the Japanese royal family has no legal power, it is more united and mysterious. It has retained a set of exclusive royal institutions since ancient times. One of the most important units is the guards, who have been loyal to the royal family throughout the ages. In other words, they are the royal priests and ninjas. There are many female emperors in Japanese history, and unlike China, which excludes women from taking power, as the princess of one of the 6 palaces, Princess Keiko, who looks like a high school student, has the power to call on the exclusive bodyguards belonging to her father, Prince Akihito. In fact, when she came to Xiangjiang this time, there were several very powerful ninjas in her entourage, who were of course security guards in name only. With the end of World War II, human society has entered an era of rapid development of civilization. Royal families around the world have no longer held power, either reformed or abdicated, and have become symbols of the country. For example, in the Thai and Western countries, the king is only the nominal head of state. Although the nobles of all classes are still proud, they have accepted and become accustomed to this fact and treat themselves as ordinary people. Only Japan is slightly different. Emperors all over the world, including the ancient Chinese emperors, are still human beings after all. At most they say they are the emperor and the spokesperson of God, but in essence, they are still human beings. In ancient Europe, kings, no matter whether they were powerful or not, were at least nominally required to accept the canonization of the Roman Pope. Only the Japanese royal family regards itself as a god, as humans and gods are one. The Japanese royal family, including the emperor himself, does not have surnames in order to highlight their godhood. This can also be seen from the title. The whole world, including the Queen of England, is just a king, which is translated into English as king. The only one in Japan who is called emperor is the emperor, which is translated into emperor. All in all, most young children of the Japanese royal family do have different concepts from those of Western European royal families, and they have a superiority in their bones. The policewoman in the box narrowed her eyes slightly when she saw the person pointed by Unicon's finger on the screen from a distance. It's him. When did he come to Xiangjiang? How do you get to know this British princess? The collective dressage performance of the opening ceremony is held at the center of the race. According to the competition method, after the rider enters the horse, he controls the horse to perform various coherent and standardized movements, and skillfully transitions to the advanced footwork competition. The purpose is to test the horse's obedience, docility, and training, as well as the horse's ability to respond to the rider's reins, feet, and riding assistance, as well as the coordination of the human and horse's integrated actions. The judges will give scores based on whether the prescribed actions of the rider and horse are correct and regular, whether the cooperation between man and horse is coordinated, and whether the horse is obedient and energetic. In the regular competition, there are 3 games in total. The first 2 are designated actions stipulated by the National Equestrian Association, and the last one is the rider and the horse performing self-selected music and self-choreographed dance steps. Since it is an opening ceremony performance rather than a regular competition, there are no designated movements for individual performance. The horse racing movements on the field are neat and uniform, and the designated movements are performed gracefully. The jockeys wear gorgeous riding attire and look like gentlemen and ladies. Calm and graceful, the horse's fur was washed and shiny like satin, and the horse's mane was combed into unique braids, which looked pleasing to the eye. In the eyes of equestrian beginners, dressage is a high-level skill in horse control. In fact, on the contrary, dressage is the most test of horse control skills and is the foundation of all equestrian skills. It seems that Xiangjiang horse racing fans are no strangers to Princess Anne, who leads the team on the field. After her appearance, the whole house burst into cheers and cheered for the princess throughout the performance. After a brief but exciting opening ceremony, the preliminary round officially entered. A total of 32 preliminary horses are divided into 4 groups. Each group competes. The top 2 horses in each group directly enter the next round. In addition to these 8 horses, the top 8 horses in the overall score advance to 16 horses. The second round of competition will be held, and the top 12 horses will be selected based on their results for the finals. In other words, there are 3 rounds, with 8, and 12 horses competing in the same field. In the first round of the preliminary competition, similar to the usual horse betting, the commentator first introduced the pedigree, record, and other information of the 8 horses in this race, including the information of the horse owner. The favorite to win the championship, Blue Bay, is in this group. This horse has excellent pedigree and the owner is also quite famous. He is a descendant of the He family, the shipbuilding tycoon of Hong Kong in the 1980s, and runs a cruise business. Su Ming's Happy is also in this group, which seems to be eclipsed. Compared with the other 7 horses with good backgrounds and pedigrees, Happy has no advantages, so the commentator only mentioned it briefly when introducing it. Ho Long Tao was quite excited. He ran to the betting point and bet 2,000 yuan to buy Happy first. Although the Longines Cup is a competition, the Jockey Club will certainly not miss this opportunity and can still bet. Su Ming can't bet. First, he also knows the strength of Happy and there is basically no chance of winning the championship. Second, he has a gentleman's agreement with the Jockey Club, and it is not appropriate to make money again. Mr. Su, hello, a familiar but official voice sounded from behind. He looked back and was stunned. A young face with a capable cap badge, expressionless strictly speaking, looking at him coldly. Huh? Madam. It was Ho Po Man, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Looking at the inscription on her uniform, Su Ming smiled and said, "Wow, you got promoted? Congratulations, there are probably very few chief inspectors so young in Hong Kong's history." It was Ho Po Man. Su Ming saw that she looked unhappy and immediately guessed the reason. Anyway, she had confessed her feelings last time, and it would be better if she came to Hong Kong to watch the horses together at the end of the year. As a result, he came without a greeting. Now she caught him in the act. It would be strange for a woman to be happy. Su Ming didn't want to cause trouble. Since nothing was going to happen, why bother talking about this flirtation and misleading others and himself? Who knew that he would meet at the race course? He was depressed and said bad luck in his heart, but his eyes fell on the 3-star shoulder strap of He Baoan, showing an extremely surprised expression, and said in a slightly exaggerated tone, "Wow, how long has it been since we last met, and you have been promoted to Chief Inspector? 3 levels in a row." The fact that Hong Kong police are rated as the best police in Asia is not unrelated to the huge police establishment. The ratio of police personnel is the highest in Asia, and the police force sequence is divided into director level, middle level, and sergeant level. The director level is the real boss, and the inspector general belongs to the middle level. A senior inspector is already a figure in the police force, and the next level is the superintendent. Female senior inspectors under 30 years old are rare in the entire police force. According to this promotion speed, if nothing unexpected happens, it is not a suspense to become a superintendent or a senior superintendent in the future. If she is lucky enough to be established as the image representative of the police force, it may not be impossible to enter the director level. He Baoan himself is obviously quite proud. After hearing what Su Ming said, his face eased a little, and he finally had a smile on his face. Mr. Xiangshi nodded and smiled at Long Wu on the side, as a greeting. "How come you have time to watch horse racing today? And you are dressed in uniform?" Su Ming thought for a moment and smiled. "Are you in charge of the security of the race course?" He Baoan shook his head, turned his head and looked at a box on the other side, frowned and asked Su Ming, "Have you offended Princess Yujin?" "Ah," Su Ming was puzzled. "What princess?" "I saw a princess at the opening ceremony just now, Princess N. But I know her, she doesn't know me. As for the ghost Princess Yujin, what ghost is she?" Ho Long Tao was stunned on the side. When this cold-faced female police officer came to Su Ming just now, he was shocked. The police ranks in the mainland are slightly different from those in Hong Kong, but he is not blind. He Baoan has so many flowers on his shoulders. He can tell at a glance that he is not a small character. He is from the mainland, so he has a natural fear of the police. Hearing the other party mention the princess again, Ho Long Tao was even more speechless. He looked at Su Ming and thought that this guy had only been in Hong Kong for a few days. First, he was a gangster, then the Jockey Club, and now he has offended even the princess. It's really exciting. Long Wu asked expressionlessly, "Is Princess Eugene in the box over there?" As he spoke, he explained, "The 7th heir to the British throne." "What's going on?" Su Ming asked Ho Long Tao. "I don't know what's going on. The police force sent me to be responsible for the safety of the 4 princesses." Princess Eugene heard that you are an expert in horse racing and invited you to gamble. Wait. How did it become 4 princesses again? The people present, including He Baoan, were all confused now. Even He Baoan didn't know what was going on. He just conveyed the challenge in the box over there. Princess Eugene wanted to gamble one-on-one with Su Ming in the next game. This kind of gambling is purely a private game. Both parties are willing to do so, which is not illegal and has nothing to do with the jockey club. I just don't know why the other party would take the initiative to choose Su Ming. Ho Long Tao tugged at Su Ming's sleeve and said, I don't know what the other party wants to do. Be careful of fraud. Just ignore her. I haven't heard of anyone forcing people to gamble having made a lot of money last time. Ho Long Tao always felt that the jockey club would not give up. It's better not to make trouble at this time. Of course He Baoan nodded on the side. If you don't agree, even the Queen of England can't do anything. And from a personal point of view, I suggest you don't agree. Why? Su Ming asked. The overall equestrian level of the British royal family is the highest in the world, and Eugene is one of the best. Her horse judging level is not inferior to Princess Anne, who led the performance just now, He Baoan said. Su Ming looked at Long Wu, and Long Wu said, it is certainly not a wise move to bet on horses with the British, especially the British royal family. However, no one dares to say that there is a 100% chance of winning in horse betting. What about the British royal family? It depends on you. Su Ming thought about it and smiled at He Baoan, then bet. He also wanted to know what the princess was selling. Amid the cheers of thousands of spectators, the preliminaries were held as scheduled, and under the unknown surface, another gambling game also kicked off. Facts have proved that betting on horses with a trainer is definitely not a wise choice. Princess Eugene, who was originally full of confidence, was shocked to find that she had become a pauper after 3 games. After losing all £120,000, there is no spare money available this year, and even the money for repairing the car cannot be collected. It's not like she has no money. After all, she is a princess of the royal family. She has a fixed industry under her name. With the royal quota funds, she is not so poor that she will go bankrupt with £120,000. However, the remaining money is used for the maintenance of various industries, continued investment, labor expenses, and other legitimate purposes. Just like a college student, with a living allowance of 1,000 yuan a month, 700 yuan of which may be used for food and water, which are necessities of life, and the remaining 300 yuan can be used for pocket money. If the pocket money is gone, if you continue to gamble, you can only use the living expenses. Eugene was very depressed. Today's luck was extremely bad. 3 times in a row, she actually bet on the wrong horse. Princess Hea shook her head and said nothing. Horse racing is originally based on luck. In fact, in any gambling, without cheating, the importance of luck must be higher than technology. Only when the luck difference is not big, can we talk about technology. Yunijin had previously analyzed her opponent's record in detail and thought that her opponent's skills were just average, and that she was just lucky enough to win the jackpot, so she was very confident. But in the casino, people are afraid of such people, who are in good luck and possessed by the god of wealth, and nothing can stop them. Hea is much older and more experienced than Yunijin, and she sees things more thoroughly, while the young Princess Keiko is just the opposite. She was very surprised to see Yunijin being defeated again and again. Young girls always have something in common, such as arrogance. Seeing that Yunijin, who also has a noble status, was completely defeated, Keiko said unhappily, Sister Yunijin, we can't let a commoner defeat us. This is related to the honor of the royal family. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 737. But, I don't have the capital anymore, Yunijin said unwillingly. Let's stop here, Yunijin, It seems that the god of luck is not with you, Hea advised. The one who is afraid of chaos in the world is the one who is afraid of chaos. Princess Keiko patted her chest and said, Your Highness Yunijin, I will lend you 10 million yen in my personal name to teach the civilian who dared to challenge the royal family a lesson. Hea couldn't help but frowned. It was Yunijin who challenged first. Besides, what era is it now? Do you still think it's 100 years ago? Can you use the so-called bloodline to divide people's levels? Show your dignity by oppressing civilians. The royal family without power, if they can no longer uphold virtues and serve as a role model for ordinary people, what is the need for them to exist? Of course, these words are not something that Yunijin can understand at this age. Hea also had a rebellious girlhood and knew that it would be useless to say anything at this time. Yunijin's two thick hairless tufts stood up, and she hesitated. 10 million yen is not too little, enough to gamble a few more games, and there is a great hope of making a comeback. But what if I lose everything? A princess of the royal family cannot owe debts and not pay them back. How can I pay back Keiko then? But I won't be so unlucky that I lose everything, right? Eugene, who is proficient in mathematics, quickly used the formula of permutations and combinations to deduce in his mind. The probability of losing 3 games in a row is already very small, and then losing all. From the perspective of probability, it is almost impossible. Even a person who doesn't understand horses at all can hardly keep losing. Besides, that damn guy, can't he run out of luck? Sister Hea is right, technology is important, luck is also important, but the god of luck can't always favor him, right? Just as he was hesitating, Su Ming's war letter arrived. The next game will start soon. He asked the princess if she wanted to continue betting. Su Ming didn't care much about winning tens of thousands of pounds in a game, but it was a great feeling to win the princess's money, and a princess who seemed to be hostile to him for no reason. After winning 3 games in a row, Su Ming became a little excited from the initial confusion. He wanted to see what the princess was going to do, so before the 4th game, he took the initiative to urge the fight. Yunjin had no money left. She was a little guilty. When asked this question, she was immediately angry. She had taken the initiative to challenge him in the previous games, and her words were a little arrogant. After losing 3 games, Su Ming actually took the initiative to challenge him. She immediately drew an aggressive and hateful face in her mind. Tell him to bet, Yunjin said fiercely. The Longines Cup held every year will cause a lot of excitement in Hong Kong, and a group of excellent riders and race horses will emerge. All media will report on it, which has become a routine. This year's Longines Cup, in addition to the normal competition reports that were as intense as usual, there were 2 interesting side stories. The first piece of news was about horses. 2 unpopular horses with very ordinary bloodlines suddenly made a surprise and entered the finals despite being unpopular before the race. One of them, called Lion Dragon, was particularly eye-catching. In the sprint stage of the final, it and another purebred Arabian horse were competing for the first place. When it was about 10 meters away from the finish line, the horse suddenly turned its head, opened its mouth and spit a lot of saliva, spraying the Arabian horse next to it. Horses are large animals with big heads and long mouths, so there is no need to mention the amount of saliva. This lion dragon seemed to be well prepared and accumulated a large mouthful of saliva. According to post-race estimates, it could at least fill a large Coke cup at KFC. After such a large mouthful of saliva, the Arabian horse's vision suddenly blurred and it actually ran out of the venue. If it does not compete on the designated track, the Arabian horse will be disqualified, and the lion dragon will be the first to cross the finish line. This posed a difficult problem for the judges. It is clearly stipulated that if a horse interferes with other race horses by kicking or biting, it is against the rules. But what kind of behavior is spitting on the field? Is it against the rules? Who would have thought that a racehorse would do such a thing? It is just like no competition would have a nonsensical rule that athletes are prohibited from urinating and defecating during the competition. Because normal people would not do this. In the end, the judges unanimously determined that Schubert interfered with other race horses by unfair means, which was not in line with the spirit of fair competition, and the results were also cancelled. People who love to watch horse racing will pay attention to the upset horses, so Schubert immediately became a big star, and the scene of spitting on the field was even made into a dynamic picture by the gossipers and became popular on the internet. The popular internet phrase "I'll spit on your face" finally found a suitable picture. Another underdog, Grandjoy, ran a decent third place. This good result was attributed to Leopardus. If it hadn't been eliminated at the same time as the Arabian horse, Grandjoy would have only been fifth. The horse that got the advantage and won the championship was overshadowed by Leopardus. The second thing is about people. This news is more explosive than the horse. Despite the spray-in-your-face incident, the strength of the two underdog horses is unquestionable. Under normal circumstances, they would at least be the second and fifth place in the finals, comparable to race horses with pure bloodlines and great backgrounds. A quick check revealed that the owner of these two horses is the same person, mainland entrepreneur Su Ming. There is no impenetrable wall in the world. Soon, there was a rumor that Su Ming and British Princess Eugenie had once made a private bet. This news is very explosive because there are too many eye-catching points in it. On one side is the mainland tycoon known for being a nouveau riche, and on the other side is the British royal family known for being well versed in equestrianism and even having produced multiple world equestrian champions. On one side is an ordinary tourist from the mainland with a booming economy, and on the other side is a royal princess of the British government that once colonized Hong Kong. It is said that there is also a Japanese princess involved. The ending is shocking. After 3 days, the mainland tycoon's record is amazing. Except for 2 draws, the rest are all wins. The reader's interest was immediately aroused. How much money did he win? Who knew that within 2 days, all the media were silent, as if they had agreed in advance, and never mentioned this matter. It is said that they received instructions from above not to over-exaggerate the report. Therefore, only a few parties know how much money they won. In fact, they didn't win any money. At the end of the bet, Unicorn, who had been losing all the time, suddenly made a suggestion to use an ancient castle in Romania under her name as a bet. Regardless of winning or losing, the money lost before must be returned to her. Su Ming agreed without hesitation. This kind of ancient castle with hundreds of years of history cannot be bought with money. It represents a kind of identity. In the end, the god of luck still stood on Su Ming's side. An ancient castle, Su Ming held a stack of legal documents for transfer and looked at the castle in the Romanian mountains with interest. On the other side, Princess Anne frowned and asked Eugene angrily, "Yun, what are you thinking about? Why do you want to sell your private property?" "Sister Anne, I have no choice. I borrowed money from Princess Keiko 3 times. I definitely can't pay it back. Does the British princess owe money to the Japanese princess? Besides, the winery under my name needs to continue to invest. Oh, and I need to repair the car." Yun knew that she had caused a big trouble this time. It was inevitable that she would be severely scolded by the queen when she returned. She might even be confined. She was not confident enough to speak, and she carefully excused herself. "Fortunately, the castle is a burden. Not only is it not in the UK, but it is also dilapidated and old. Not only can it not be sold, but it costs money every year. It costs a lot of money to maintain it. Sister, the royal family is so tight on funds. Even Her Majesty the Queen regularly opens Buckingham Palace to collect tickets to make money. I use this broken castle to pay off debts, which is also to reduce the burden on the royal family. But this is a disgrace to the royal family," Princess Anne said unhappily. "Because of your willfulness, hundreds of years of industry fell into the hands of foreigners. You go back and explain to His Majesty yourself. Forget it, you come back to the country with me immediately. Things here have nothing to do with you in the future. I heard that Princess Keiko has a very strange temper. Try to have less contact with her in the future. Yunjin's eyes rolled around, thinking that Keiko seemed to be quite angry. She kept talking about the royal family and civilians, and seemed to have mentioned that she wanted to teach that guy a lesson. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 738. Princess Keiko was very unhappy. Birds of a feather flock together and people divide into groups. When they reach the level of the royal family, even if they are no longer in control of the country's political power, there are already very few people in the world who can play with them and share a common language. Plus, there is no need to conquer cities and territories. There is no need to consider the national interests of distant relations and close attacks. In fact, the royal families of various countries have relatively frequent exchanges, and most of the young people are familiar with each other. Eugene is considered young and talented among princesses from all over the world. She has a lively personality and is not as serious as most members of the royal family. She has always been regarded as an idol sister by Princess Keiko, who is a few years younger than her. After Jiazi entered the rebellious period of adolescence, she suddenly seemed to be a different person. She often wore revealing clothes and went to bars and nightclubs to hang out with street gangsters. Her temper also became very weird and unreasonable, which made Chiu Prince Fumito Shinomiya and his wife were very troubled, so they specially asked her to come to Hong Kong to watch the Hong Kong Marseille, hoping to get more exposure to elegant sports and stay away from those smoky places. Unexpectedly, something like this happened. Sister Eugene, who was regarded as an idol, was hit by a villain and her car was damaged. She was also defeated at the hands of the villain, including her ancestral castle. Nothing happened to Yunikin. Keiko quit. As a loyal princess, Keiko decided to be like those loyal and brave samurai retainers in the movie, not to implicate Princess Yunikin, and act secretly to help Sister Yunikin. Tone. Well, that's it, Princess Jiazi clenched her fist vigorously. Your Highness, this seems not good. One of the two personal guards brought by Unity Jin, a middle-aged ninja who can be regarded as the top in Japan, after receiving the order, hesitated again and boldly asked. Being able to become royal guards and retainers of the royal family for generations, the loyalty of these ninjas is unquestionable. If it was Yoshiko's father, their official master, Prince Akihino Fumito, who ordered it, these ninjas wouldn't ask why, wouldn't even think about it, and would definitely execute it without hesitation. Even if it requires them to have a cesarean section. However, Princess Keiko's order is not to say that it cannot be implemented, but it seems to be a bit nonsense. Princess Jiazi asked the two ninjas to pretend to be ordinary tourists, find trouble, have a conflict with Su Ming and his group, and then beat Su Ming severely. Princess Keiko's original words were, break a leg and make him unable to get out of bed for at least 3 months. Well, but I am a royal princess after all, and I won't really care about these common people. I just need to teach you a lesson. No, leave a disability, but it must hurt. After entering a civilized society, a real bodyguard must learn more than just martial arts and assassination escape techniques. As a royal bodyguard, ninjas must also understand politics. In Chinese terms, there is political consciousness. Princess Keiko did this, not to mention that it was a child throwing a tantrum, it was meaningless at all. If she was exposed or someone found out, it would inevitably lead to international disputes. Due to historical issues, the relationship between China and Japan is already tense. In order to win votes, the Japanese cabinet has a very extreme attitude towards China. However, the royal family is on the contrary. It very much wants to repair the relationship between the two countries and is unwilling to become the flag and scapegoat of careerists in the cabinet. Therefore, to hurt a Chinese person for no reason, but a Chinese entrepreneur with certain social influence and popularity, this kind of thing. How could it be unprovoked? Jiazhi glared, he made me lose face. He has never seen you, nor said a word to you. He may not even know that you exist. He won Princess Unity's money, and Princess Unity also returned the money to you, Momotaro said loudly. Of course what Momotaro said was correct, but for a young and rebellious girl princess, Keiko couldn't listen to a word she said. Instead, she felt that Momotaro was looking down on her for being young and ignorant. Okay, Momotaro, how dare you talk back? Are you still a samurai of my Aki's Hino palace? Princess Keiko fumed angrily, and her words became more serious. Are you going to break your 300-year oath and betray the royal family? Okay, if that's the case, I can definitely remove you from the royal ninja rank in the name of the second daughter of Aki's Hino palace. These words are too serious. Being removed from the clan by the head of the family is such a humiliation that a warrior with a sense of honor can commit suicide by cesarean section without hesitation. In these days, you can still choose a samurai who is loyal to the royal family. The sense of honor is absolutely more important than anything else. As if struck by lightning, Momotaro quickly knelt down on the ground and said in a trembling voice, Your Highness, please forgive my rudeness. I will execute it immediately. Looking down at the frightened Momotaro's broad back, Princess Keiko's expression was not as angry as expected. Instead, she raised the corner of her mouth, revealing a smile like a little fox, as if her conspiracy had succeeded. Okay, Uncle Momotaro, you have protected me since I was born, and I know you are the best to me. I just said angry words, don't take it to heart, Princess Keiko smiled. Help Momotaro up. Momotaro's forehead was sweating. He took a long breath and lowered his head slightly. Your Highness, I will do it right now. Let Rukawaka-ed protect your safety. Rukawaka-ed is another young ninja accompanying the strip, but he is also a top character among the ninjas in the country. In terms of skill alone, he even surpasses Momotaro. No, Xiangjiang is very safe. You can go together so that you can take care of each other. Jiazhi waved her hands nonchalantly. Remember, you must hit him very painfully. Oh, remember to take a video and show it to me. Momotaro. There is a small storefront on Jardine Street in Causeway Bay, opposite Times Square. There are a few big characters on the sign at the door. Wen Hui Squid Ball King. Su Ming's tongue was ready to swallow it. There are so many heroes in the world. They often eat Hong Fi Fei's food. It stands to reason that Su Ming's taste has been cultivated to be very sophisticated. Normal food will never impress him, but this fish ball king is simply amazing. 4 cuttlefish balls. Served with Dalu bamboo tart noodles, the noodles are cooked soft, and the fish balls are so elastic that they will explode when you bite into them. And it's only 20 yuan a bowl. 20 yuan, you can't buy it, you can't buy it, you can't buy it, you can't buy it, you can't be fooled. But you can buy a bowl of delicious fish balls that will make you full and forget your worries. Are you going to be so exaggerated? He Baoan, who was sitting across the table, glared at Su Ming angrily. Wow, madam, you really know how to choose a place. This fish ball is so delicious that no one has friends. Su Ming raised his head and drank the soup, then yelled at the boss, one more bowl. You are really good at acting. Do you want me to introduce some directors to you? Oh, I forgot. You are also a film and television giant now, and you are also the god of gamblers. Why don't you invest in a movie about god of gamblers? Let's fight against the royal princess, He Baoan said. Does the name have to be so long? Su Ming chuckled. I met He Baoan by chance at the race course. This trainee female inspector had been promoted all the way to a senior inspector because of the last kidnapping incident, and was responsible for the safety of the 2 princesses. No matter how thick-skinned Su Ming was, he was too embarrassed to show off when he met an old friend in person. Hibaoan is an authentic local and is very familiar with the delicious local snacks. He can always choose a good place with good quality and low price. Of course, fish balls are delicious, but they are not without friends. Okay, I won't joke with you anymore. We are just ordinary friends anyway. You don't have to come to play with me. Hibaoan gave Su-ming an angry look. Hey, tell me, why is such a big castle only worth $600,000? Su-ming once used the trick of changing the topic. Not far away, two tourists were dressed up, carrying big old-fashioned bags. The man wearing sunglasses heard the word castle and looked at Su-ming at the same time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 739. P.S. I'm really sorry. Chapter 734 was posted twice. Due to the background delay, sometimes when I click it, two chapters will be released at the same time. This chapter has 4,000 words and has been adjusted after communicating with the editor. Friends who have subscribed, please refresh your bookshelf. Chapter 738 will be released on September 29. Please suck out the poison. This 5,000-word chapter is free to make up for everyone. I'm so sorry. The area of the castle in Unikan was marked in detail on the transfer document. According to Su-ming's estimation, it would be no problem for a small army to live in it, with hundreds of people. Although it was located in a remote location, it would not be sold at such a low price. In fact, the original purpose of the castle was to station troops and resist enemy attacks. The population of medieval Europe was sparse, and it was common for a lord to have only a few hundred standing soldiers. Under normal circumstances, the standing soldiers lived with the lord in the castle. In addition to its large area, the castle is also a cultural relic with a history of more than 500 years. The price of the castle is very cheap. The bet was $250,000. Su-ming returned the $350,000 he had won to Unikan. The total price of the castle was $600,000. Even if it is calculated based on the area, $600,000 can only buy a small villa in Yangchuan City, and it may not necessarily have a real estate certificate. This trick of changing the subject really works, especially when talking about house to a woman. It works immediately. Hibaoan's attention shifted from Su-ming's deliberate refusal to ask her out when he came to Xiangjiang to the castle. He said, house prices in Europe are not expensive to begin with. They are much cheaper than in Xiangjiang. Many freehold houses are even cheaper than in Yangchuan City. Su-ming, don't slander socialism. But their property tax is very expensive. Hibaoan rolled his eyes and continued, every year, he has to pay 1 to 2% of the total value of the house. Su-ming calculated that even if it were 2%, the transaction volume of $600,000 would only be $12,000 per year, which was completely affordable. In 70 years, it would be $840,000, plus the $600,000 spent to buy the castle. Just over $1 million. Also, although the castle is private property, it is a cultural relic and has historical value, so any responsible owner will carry out necessary maintenance and repairs. The annual maintenance cost for such a large ancient castle is high. Compared with Su-ming, a nouveau riche who lives in a small city in the mainland, Hibaoan, who grew up in the international metropolis of Xiangjiang, obviously knows more about foreign countries. Actually, $600,000 is not cheap at all. I'll kill you. As far as I know, many owners of such castles sell them for a very low price, even for just $1, because they cannot afford to repair and maintain them. $1 is for sale. If you don't need money, it is a gift. There are certain differences in law and procedures between the two. It doesn't matter. I didn't lose anything anyway, I didn't spend a dime, Su Ming shrugged. However, the former royal castle is very respectable. You also know that Europe is not a place where the nouveau riche gather like the United States. The upper class in Europe recognize this very much. Wineries with a long history, people who have lived their castles with prominent owners are the best way to enter the upper class, He Baoan said. Su Ming thought about flying to Romania when he had time to inspect his castle on the spot. My plans for the future have not been limited to the country, and now it is just right that someone will give me a pillow when I feel sleepy. With this castle and the peninsula where the Lur people of Russia live, it can be considered a cunning rabbit. As he was talking, the extra bowl of fish balls that Su Ming had just ordered arrived. The waiter came from the aisle with the bowl in his hand. A young man wearing sunglasses suddenly raised his hand slightly. The waiter didn't know why, but his eyesight blurred. One of his feet failed to step firmly, and he and the bowl fell to the ground with a bang. With a bang, the bowl containing fish balls was smashed into pieces, and the soup and water splashed all over the middle-aged woman in front. "Wow, death," the middle-aged woman shouted. All the attention of the restaurant was attracted, including Su Ming. Two ninjas wearing sunglasses stood up, took advantage of the chaos, grabbed Su Ming and He Baoan's bags, turned around and fled. Eh? Robbery, Su Ming was stunned. Fall on the street. How dare you rob my sister, He Baoan was furious. The two looked at each other and uttered one word at the same time, chase. They stood up at the same time, ran away and rushed out. After the two thieves dressed as tourists robbed something, they looked around the street as if they were lost, until they saw Su Ming and He Baoan chasing them out, and they got into a small alley in a panic. These two thieves are, of course, Momotaro and Rukawaka-ed. After they left Princess Jiazi, they quickly found the hotel where Su Ming was staying through their own channels. There are cameras everywhere in public places in Hong Kong. If you do something in a crowded place, it is easy to expose yourself. Once traced, it is definitely not possible to hide your identity 100% by wearing sunglasses. Especially in hotels, the front and rear doors, corridors, and elevators are all monitored without blind spots. There is no situation like in the movies where you can rush in and kill people with your face covered and still escape. The first priority for a ninja is to be patient. The two ninjas were cruel enough to me. They did not rest for 24 hours a day, and waited outside the hotel for 2 days and 2 nights, eating bread and drinking mineral water. They also found a temporary job, wearing thick Mickey Mouse hoods, pretending to be marketers, taking photos with passers-by and distributing flyers. All this was to monitor Su Ming. After waiting for Su Ming to show up, the two ninjas each earned several hundred Hong Kong dollars. They followed Su Ming all the way to the fish ball shop. The two ninjas planned to lead Su Ming to a place where no one was around before they attacked. This alley was the intended location for the two ninjas to attack. As soon as Su Ming and He Baoan rushed into the alley, the two thieves stopped, turned around, and looked at Su Ming coldly. "You're looking for death, you even dare to rob the police." He Baoan showed his ID card and strode over in high heels, looking angry. These two ninjas have special identities. He Baoan has never seen them, but they have seen He Baoan and know that this woman is a mid-level police officer in Hong Kong. However, this title is nothing compared to Princess Keiko's order. Just knock her out. Rukawaka-ed laughed sinisterly, and suddenly raised his hand and pulled a rope hanging in the corner of the wall. With a creaking sound, a large wooden board for decoration fell from the sky, blocking Su Ming and He Baoan's retreat, and completely separating the alley from the main road. Swish, swish. Two pure steel batons wrapped in rubber appeared neatly in Momotaro and Rukawaka-ed's hands. Instead of retreating, the two men advanced step by step towards Su Ming and He Baoan. Seeing this situation, He Baoan realized that something was wrong. This was not the style of an ordinary thief. Obviously he was caught. Su Ming shouted in a low voice, "Be careful," and pulled He Baoan. "You step back, I'll take care of it." He Baoan stepped firmly and subconsciously blocked Su Ming with his body. Police officers of her level do not need to return their guns after get off work, because there may be missions at any time, and it is too troublesome to go through the procedures to get guns every time they go on a mission. Without time to think, she flipped her hand and pulled out a revolver from her skirt. "I am He Baoan, a senior inspector of the serious crime team. Put down your weapons and accept inspection, otherwise I will shoot." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 740. The alley was very narrow, and it was a bit crowded for two people to stand side by side. There was sewage flowing on the ground, and there was an unpleasant fishy smell. It seemed to be a different world from the clean and hygienic street of Causeway Bay outside the alley. Out of professional habit, He Baoan blocked Su Ming behind him and pointed his gun at the two robbers opposite. Within 10 meters, the lethality of the revolver was amazing. The two adults on the opposite side almost blocked the alley tightly, and there was no place to run. Once the gun was fired, there was no possibility of missing. Just when He Baoan felt that the situation was settled, Su Ming suddenly felt a very strong sense of vigilance. "Be careful," he raised his hand to pull He Baoan. As soon as his hand was placed on He Baoan's shoulder, the shoulders of the two people on the opposite side moved slightly, and two buzzing sounds of breaking through the air were heard in the alley, as if something was flying towards the side at a very high speed. Almost at the same time, a cold light flashed, and two small black dots were already in front of him. Hearing the sound of breaking through the air and seeing the small black dot, Su Ming was shocked at almost the same time. The flying speed of these two things was almost comparable to the speed of sound. In the midst of his busy schedule, he couldn't see clearly what it was. A phantom energy storage ball broke apart, and the power from the elephant spread all over his body at a speed faster than sound. With a force from his arm, he forcibly pulled He Baoan's white body behind him. Ding, a crisp sound, and sparks of fire splashed. Everything happened in a flash. He Baoan's face hurt slightly, and a sharp wind slid past him. His hand was shocked as if he was electrocuted. The small pistol was taken out of his hand by a huge force, hit the wall, bounced, and fell to the ground. Looking closely, He Baoan broke out in a cold sweat. The muzzle of the revolver, which was not long, was neatly cut off. Not far away, a polished and shiny hexagonal dart, with its remaining power, half of it was immersed in the cement wall. Is this something a human can do? If I had just stood there stupidly and this dart had hit me. I can't imagine it. Not only was He Baoan surprised, but the two ninjas on the opposite side were also scared and sweating. They followed Su Ming and He Baoan all the way, and saw that the two were talking and laughing, and they went to eat together, looking like a couple. Even if they were not a couple, their relationship was not ordinary. Even a blind man could see that this woman was interested in the man around her. So, even if I knew that He Baoan was a police officer, I didn't expect her to carry a gun with her. Come to think of it, how could there be a woman carrying a gun while shopping with her boyfriend? Is this a woman? What's more, she looked like she had no place to hide a gun. Who knew that she would carry it, and she even took it out from under her skirt? Cold weapons have never been able to gain an advantage against hot weapons. Since the birth of hot weapons, cold weapons have gradually withdrawn from the stage of history. As masters of cold weapons, the two ninjas are particularly sensitive to hot weapons and have a natural hatred for them. They have been taught since childhood that when facing hot weapons, they must strike first. As soon as He Baoan showed his gun, the nature of the matter changed. The two ninjas had only intended to teach Su Ming a lesson, but when they were pointed at by the gun, they immediately became angry cats and felt the threat of death. Momotaro is older and has experienced more emergencies. He is relatively calm. The first thing he did was defensive evasive action. But Rukawa-Kaed is different. As the best ninja of the younger generation of Koga school, this handsome guy's professional level is top-notch in China, but it is precisely because he has spent most of his time honing his skills since he was a child that he is relatively immature in other aspects and has no experience in dealing with emergencies. The actual top master of Koga school was pointed at by a gun, and the anger and humiliation rose up. Fenglin Huoshan, the offensive is like fire, the attack is the best defense, and the dead enemy is the best enemy. He made an offensive move without hesitation, and with a flick of his wrist, 2 darts flew out of his hand. At such a close distance, it is hard to say which one is more lethal, a pistol or a dart. Baga, Momotaro was so scared that he even spoke in his native language, and glared at Rukawa-Kaed fiercely. How dare these young people who don't know the height of the world shoot darts at police officers in a foreign country? I thought this was the Warring States period when assassinations were rampant. Momotaro knew Rukawa-Kaed's strength very well. At this distance, his darts are definitely better than pistols, and it is not a problem to fight 3 or 4 professional gunmen alone. The problem is that the opponent is not a killer, but a serious police officer. If someone dies, they will have to commit seppuku to apologize, and it will also implicate His Royal Highness the Prince and even His Majesty the Emperor. Fortunately, the young man blocked it and nothing serious happened. At this point, Momotaro didn't expect to continue to teach Su-Ming a lesson, so he had to get away quickly. After drinking all over Rukawa, the two turned around and strode out of the alley. Before leaving the alley, Rukawa looked back at Su-Ming. Humph, no matter what, I finally managed to do what Princess Keiko asked me to do. Thinking of Princess Keiko, Rukawa was full of energy. She was the goddess he had secretly loved since he was 7 years old. A gun and 2 darts scared both sides. Hibaoan was still frightened and forgot about it, and he didn't dare to chase the 2 people. Thank you for just now, Hibaoan said to Su-Ming. You're welcome. Su-Ming's face was livid, and he gritted his teeth as he spoke each word. I must thank you. If you hadn't pulled me away, I might have been dead, Hibaoan said as she picked up the broken gun and darts that fell on the ground, and said angrily, what era is this? There are still people using darts. We must ask the forensics department to investigate and find these 2 bastards. No. As she spoke, she realized something was wrong. There were clearly 2 black spots flying over just now, which were 2 darts. 1 dart hit her pistol and is now stuck in the wall. Where is the other one? There should be another dart. Did you see it? She turned around and asked Su-Ming. Su-Ming looked very strange, and he stammered, that, I didn't see it. Even a fool could see that Su-Ming must have seen it, but he just didn't want to say it. Hibaoan's face became serious. Tell me quickly, this is an important piece of evidence. The crime of assaulting a police officer is very serious. It's impossible to let them go. I want to take it back to my colleagues in the forensic department. Okay. Su-Ming was helpless, turned around shyly, tilted his head, stuck out his butt, and said, it's right here. Su-Ming's right pants were stained with blood, and another dart was firmly inserted in his right buttocks, with only a corner exposed. Hiss, 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 the blood flowed out along the edge of the dart, like a small fountain. Although it looked very miserable, Hibaoan couldn't help but laugh. Hey, do you have any humanity? I was hit by a dart, Su-Ming said angrily. He was also unlucky. Rukawa-Kaed fired 2 darts, which were generally measured. 1 dart knocked out Hibaoan's gun, and the other dart hit Hibaoan's leg, making Hibaoan lose the ability to attack and pursue. Even if he didn't attack, Hibaoan would not die, at most he would be injured. Just now, he rescued him and bent his body slightly. The dart that was originally hit on Hibaoan's thigh just happened to hit his buttocks. Su-Ming was very angry. It was okay to be injured. The force of this dart was really not small. If it weren't for the thick flesh on his buttocks, he would have activated the Rhino energy storage ball in advance, and this dart would probably hurt the bones. Sorry, the position of the dart is too. Su Ming glared, and He Baoan held back his laughter and swallowed the second half of the sentence. What are you looking at? Why don't you help me pull it out? Su Ming said with a red face, not knowing whether he was angry or embarrassed. Oh, right. He Baoan nodded vigorously, squatted behind Su Ming and began to untie his belt. What are you doing? Su Ming was shocked. What are you talking about? The pants are so thick, how can you pull it out? He Baoan said nothing and pulled Su Ming's jeans down to his calves. Fortunately, Su Ming didn't have the habit of not wearing underwear. Hey, your butt is so perky. He Baoan slapped Su Ming on the butt. Are you done yet? Su Ming was furious and looked at the other end of the alley. Hurry up. Someone will come soon. He Baoan blushed and subconsciously looked at the entrance of the alley. If someone came in at this time and saw the two of them, they would probably not think well. Hold on, I'm going to pull it out. Count to 3, 1. He Baoan had just counted a number and pulled out the dart without giving Su Ming any preparation. Ah! Su Ming's screams echoed in the alley. It didn't hurt to be shot, but it hurt to pull out the arrow. When the hexagonal dart was inserted, it was very sharp because of the speed, so it didn't hurt much. It was just like being electrocuted, numb. But when it was pulled out, it was like pulling flesh out of the wound, so painful. The bloody balls were like a child's mouth, and blood gushed out from the wound. He Baoan frowned, took off the woman's shirt neatly, tore it into strips, and bandaged Su Ming with skillful movements. He only wore underwear on his upper body. The two people's situation is now more awkward. One took off his pants and the other took off his clothes. The man held the wall with his hands and raised his buttocks, and the woman squatted behind him. Except for the weird posture, other aspects look like a pair of adulterers having an affair in the alley. The atmosphere was awkward. He Baoan coughed and changed the subject, saying, many hidden weapons in movies are poisonous. Do you think this dart is poisonous? It's possible, Su Ming said seriously, I feel a little numb now. Maybe I'm poisoned. Numbness is certain. With so much blood and severe pain, everyone will feel numb. He Baoan didn't know that Su Ming was joking. People like her who are used to using hot weapons have an inexplicable fear of cold weapons. She raised her head and asked nervously, what should I do? There is a way, but I have to trouble you. Su Ming said embarrassedly. Don't be so hesitant, you saved me, so what's the big deal if I have trouble, He Baoan said. Okay, Su Ming stuck his butt out, please suck out the poison with your mouth. Su Ming stuck his butt up high, and his body formed a very ecstatic curve. He Baoan's face turned blue and red. After holding it in for several seconds, he yelled, go to hell. He threw Su Ming over his shoulder and threw him to the ground. Sister, I've been hit by a dart. Finally, He Baoan supported Su Ming and limped out of the alley. Su Ming looked depressed. Next time you play tricks on me, you won't just throw me over the shoulder. I'm a black belt in judo, He Baoan glared at him. At the other end of the alley is a bustling side street, but unlike the commercial street on the other side, this seems to be a fish market. There are vendors setting up stalls on both sides, and the street is filled with water tanks filled with fish. The whole street was filled with a fishy smell. There are also some young and dangerous-looking people with tattoos playing mahjong at roadside stalls. A woman wearing only underwear helped a limping man walk out of the alley, attracting the attention of several mahjong tables nearby. Several gangsters saw He Baoan wearing a black lace bra and started blowing her from a distance. Whistle. Look. I've never seen a woman before. Go home and see your mother, He Baoan gestured with his middle finger aggressively. The two of them were about to walk towards the other end of the fish market. When they were less than halfway out, a shop on the roadside with a door that was much larger than the other shops suddenly walked out of a shop with 7 or 8 arrogant people. The young man stopped Su Ming. The leader was tall and thin, with a lingering unruly look on his face. It was Shen He Jixiang who was humiliated by Su Ming that day in front of Yaguki restaurant. Su Ming frowned slightly. Why did he meet him? This is Causeway Bay, which is auspicious territory. Looking at the posture, does this guy want to add insult to injury and regain the face he had that day? Could those two strange guys just now be related to Jixiang? Thinking of this, Su Ming was really a little annoyed. The car smashing incident last time was actually handled very politely and did not embarrass these young and dangerous boys at all. Later, Sheng's friend Ale went to do business with him. Instead of looking for trouble for Jixiang, he came to solve the problem. Tiger whiskers. Su Ming was already furious after being hummed in the butt. He thought to himself, if the tiger doesn't show off its power, do you really think I'm Hello Kitty? If this guy dares to say anything today, I will kill him. What are you doing? When someone blocked the way, a few young and dangerous boys were still staring at He Baoan's breasts. The young chief inspector frowned impatiently. Get out of your way, you guys. Unexpectedly, today's auspicious attitude turned 180 degrees from the day when the car was smashed. He turned around and waved, scolded a few younger brothers who had unruly eyes, and then said to Su Ming very enthusiastically, Su Ming sir, why do you have time to come to the fish market today? Oh, this is my little brother's place, and I cover the entire market. If my sister wants to buy fish, I will ask them to choose some of the largest groupers and send them over. Su Ming was stunned. What did this mean? Hey, brother Li said hello to me, and I found out that Su Sheng is brother Li's friend. What happened that day was just a misunderstanding. Seeing Su Ming's confusion, Ji Xiang said with a smile, speaking of which, there are also thanks to Mr. Tuo Su, brother Li gave me the seat of the next Causeway Bay talker. No wonder he was arrogant at first and respectful at the end. It turned out that good luck was a blessing in disguise, but it came to power. As for TOEFL, that's not necessarily the case. Maybe Ali wants to train a close successor before he retires. Mr. Su, are you injured? Ji Xiang finally noticed that Su Ming's posture was not normal. One foot was high and the other was low. He Baoan was supporting him. The two of them didn't look like they were having sex. It's like being chased by someone. That's right. You've been playing mahjong here. Have you seen two people dressed as tourists and carrying old-fashioned big travel bags? Su Ming asked. Like the big boys from the 1980s, He Baoan added. I saw it. Those two rushed out in a panic and knocked over a stall. Jixiang nodded vigorously and said angrily, the two rushed out and injured my brother. They ran so fast. We more than a dozen people couldn't catch up. Why, were they the ones who injured you? It's them, Su Ming said. Wow, if you hurt Mr. Su on my property, you are not giving me face. If you are not giving me face, you are not giving face to Causeway Bay Hall. If you are not giving face to Tang Kao, then you are not giving face to Sheng's 50,000 members. Here you go. Ji Xiangke became the speaker, and he was probably in a good mood, so he said a lot of tongue twisters. Don't worry, Su Sheng, as long as they are still in Causeway Bay, I will find them no matter how hard I try, and vent my anger on you. After saying that, he couldn't help but pick up the phone and dialed the numbers one after another. Hey, Sangbiao, I'm lucky. Find me two people who look like a big circle. Hey, dinosaur. I'm lucky. It doesn't have to be a big circle, it looks similar. I'll ask the brothers here who have seen them to come with you. Hey, Xian Shiqiang, attack your mother, I am lucky. Go check all the hotels and stables and help me scrape two people out. Hey, De Fei, Are there 2 people with travel bags who can take your boat out to sea? Okay, okay, I'll send someone over to keep an eye on. Soon, more than 20 boys who had met the 2 tourists were sent out by Jixiang to find their whereabouts. Jixiang insisted on dragging Su Ming to his shop, saying that a 2-foot-long grouper was newly brought up from the sea today. This is a rare good thing, and he must invite Su Ming to try it. Seafood is a disease, especially if you have trauma. You should not eat this stuff, but Jixiang is too enthusiastic. Su Ming thought that since he has mental strength, it is not a big problem to eat some fish. These people who come out to hang out want to lose face, and they invited him warmly, so he refused to go. On the contrary, it was not beautiful, so he and Baoan entered Jixiang seafood food stall. Jixiang was not exaggerating. A 2-foot-long grouper is rarely seen on the market. It has a strong visual impact. The 3 of them chatted while eating fish and quickly finished the grouper. During the chat, I learned that Jixiang, the leader of the gang, also has his own legitimate business source, which is seafood. This is his biggest source of income. Before, he had no position of decision-maker and could only open a small shop in Causeway Bay. Now that he has this position, he plans to increase investment, buy all the shops in this area, and then take out loans to buy a few boats to go fishing.